Got us on? Okay, let's call this meeting of this work session of the Natrona County Board of County Commissioners to order. First item on the agenda, Mr. Tyler.
Good afternoon, Chairman Chadwick and members of the County Commission. Keith Tyler here today on behalf of FT Investments to talk about our project out on Salt Creek. This was a project that we went through the rezoning controversy about recently. We're wanting to move forward with an actual platting of that property. Construction probably won't take place for another year or so, but just in view of the time that it takes to get platting done and deal with the issues of that, we want to get started. And one of the issues that we wanted to bring to your attention and talk about and get some direction, although I think I know what the direction is, but at least talk about on the road what might happen, is that we'll be putting in a fairly substantial road through the middle of our project that we envision could tie into Polaris Drive if and when Polaris Drive is constructed, either part or all of it. It would be our hope that, initially at least the first phase of Polaris Drive could be built that would connect our road back to the port of entry, because by doing that we would provide a second way out of that neighborhood for everyone. Even though Polaris Drive isn't extended all the way to Bar None, there's Andy Lane and all the roads that go off of Salt Creek that connect Andy Road. That could tie into our road and ultimately to Polaris if we plan it all appropriately. When we build it initially, this is the plan that I showed you before at the zoning meetings. Basically, we come off of Salt Creek and we just have a really good road going right through the heart of the project. It ends right now on what is the BP property to the west, and then further to the west is where Polaris Drive is kind of projected that might go north and south. So we would be in line to connect with that, depending on what happens in the future with that. So initially, the county's position is they don't want any more county roads. We understand that, and it's not a problem. We're willing to do it as a improvement service district, but we want the road to be dedicated to the public, with the understanding that if it can be utilized and is utilized as an arterial for more than just our project, we can come back to the county and ask them to consider designating it as a county road so it can be handled appropriately. If it's just servicing the dozen or so lots that we propose to build, then the ISD will work fine. The road will last for a long, long time. But if we are successful, if the community is successful with Polaris Drive and connecting us, then it'll be a lot more heavily used, I believe. So.
Okay, I would have to say that you've read us pretty well. I'd have to say you've got a pretty good idea of where we're likely to go with it. Build it to county specs, so that at that some future date, if it does look like it would be an asset to the county to have it as a connector between the two, that the county at that time could consider it.
Yeah, we'll build it, I think, to even a little higher specs, because the county specs only anticipate a gravel road. We'll build it to typical paved road construction for industrial park, and we'll put curb and gutter on it if we're able to do it the way we want to. Because we want it to be, again, an arterial type road that will withstand traffic loads. Drainage in this area is problematic. If we have a lot more development in the area, we need to address drainage, and that's one of the items we want to try to deal with as well. So.
And in your plat, you're working on that drainage issue for the entire area to help alleviate those problems.
If we can get some financial help that we're looking for from the state, then we will be able to do all that. We'll be able to not only deal with some of the regional drainage, we'll also help improve the water line connectivity for the area, loop some of the lines for Wardwell that currently are dead-ended, things like that. And we'll build the water and sewer lines big enough that they can service properties to the west.
Okay.
Past Polaris Drive.
Pardon?
Past Polaris Drive, if that would come in.
Yeah, we connect out to Polaris Drive so that, again, development in that vicinity could utilize the same water and sewer system, because there's not many other places to hook into sanitary sewer. It's out in Salt Creek and goes down to the road that's just past Scott Drive. I can't think of the name of it. It's Northwest Transportation's access road. And there's a lift station there that is very substantial, adequate to more than service our area and additional areas. So we just got to get it from those areas back to Salt Creek by gravity so that we don't have another lift station.
Great.
Boom. Mr. Knight, I think, had a question.
I do. I'm sorry. Keep it. Just for clarification, because you can file a petition with 5 signatures to have any road established as a county road at any time. So are you asking the county to do something different now?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no, I just want maybe the county to know what my thoughts are on a long-term plan.
Okay.
Less than until this road connects to something, it would be handled by Improvement Service District, and I would not expect to come back to county and say, take this road over for me. It's kind of like the project that I did up by the port of entry, bypass industrial park. That interior road is not a county road. It's maintained entirely by the bypass industrial park association.
Yeah.
We don't have an improvement service district up there because that wasn't required at the time, but the association is in place to take care of that road and does so.
Okay. Commissioner Williams?
Maybe Bill, you can answer this, or Jason. From what I understand, because you're on the MPO, Polaris is what, 7 to 10 years away at Polaris Drive?
I mean, the whole development up there is going to be, because of the nature of our economy, is going to be very dynamic, if you will, about who goes where, what roads and services need to be put in. Polaris was a recommendation to the MPO by their consultants as connectivity, but it depends upon West Lynn at the north, which is an east-west connector. There was also a second north-south connector called Queen Street. And I think what we have found is that because of the economy, local economy, it's just going to be really dynamic. I do believe this, that bar none, leadership of bar none is not, at this stage of the game, willing recognizes that their ability to save up $16 million of MPO funds is way beyond their scope. So it's going to have to be something else.
Yeah. In anticipation of that, I'm looking at it as more of a phase project. Build it all at once. And it looks to me, if you're trying to address infill development issues and needs, that you've got to provide some infrastructure for the interior areas of the community developed. It's nice to do the interchange up at Barna. I think that's is a needed addition to the community. But whether you jump all the way up there and that's where you build your next big roadway without addressing huge amounts of land that you have that are closer to town. Personally, I think communities need to address that positively by helping infill development take place. That's as important as going out on the outer skirts of the community and doing things. So,
Keith, this whole issue has died down. Have you heard anything from the residents? Have they tried to contact you or anybody?
no, but we haven't had any reason for them to
Well, I understand
contact.
that.
We're going to be bringing on the plating for consideration for the Planning Commission probably in November. We may be coming to you on a sponsorship on something about the same time, but
Do you have any, not that you would want to tell us what they are, but just have any interest in some of those lots? Evidently you do, otherwise you wouldn't have done it.
Well, we've had to redirect a lot of the interest in this area to our other development in Evansville. And I know that parties have gone to other properties in the community
Because it's not ready yet.
because it's not ready. So, you know, people don't wait around a year or two to do something when
Sure.
they're looking for industrial land. You better have it available.
They want to go, they want to go now. Most people.
Yeah. Everybody wants to talk. Go.
Your infrastructure development that includes drainage issues and water issues that are beyond your property. You've spoken about these in the past. You indicated that if there was funding available, you included in your project. It's an issue I would hope that commissioners in some manner could support because it talks to the neighbors. Is that part of what we're going to see coming forward?
Yes, we'll be submitting a grant request to the Business Council for assistance in doing all that extra work and making this road at a level that we'll be able to be tied into. So that will come to you the 1st of November.
As your engineers do that, are they doing it with the idea of elevations a half-mile north potentially being able to increase because in the area of what are the streets, Natrona and that, where because that has the same drainage problems. Are you saying I would ask your engineers to say okay?
Yeah, they're too far. They're so far separated by those residential areas on Forbes and other streets that their drainage all goes down to Salt Creek. So, you know, we're trying to address the drainage that comes down to Salt Creek in our area and carry it over to the interstate.
Okay.
So insofar as drainage hits the...
So what you're saying is the two areas are disconnected from natural drainage, and in order to engineer them, provide for engineering that far away, and it would be extraordinarily...
It won't work, but it will address the immediate areas and prevent this from continuing to be a low area that just collects water and sits. So we'll have the ability to finally convey that water out of this area over to the interstate.
Then it ultimately goes under the interstate
To where Soda Lake is.
to Soda Lake, or it goes down to the
storm sewer.
bypass and then that little marshy area.
I think it goes to...
It would go on to Soda Lake. Okay,
That's my understanding.
good. Because we don't need any more water down in our piece of...
Right. You know, something I'll bring up when we're talking about drainage is, you know, we try to address it in our projects, but it's difficult when the county doesn't have a consistent requirement with regard to drainage for new development. There's a main warehouse project that's right across the street from our site that was developed with no requirement to deal with drainage, and there's no plan in place, nothing that I can ascertain about what's to be done with the drainage off of that property, and it's just kind of shed off of them to their neighbors. So, you know, it's something that you need to be consistent and say they need to provide for drainage plans that show how and where that water's going before they get their building permits, or you wind up with more drainage problems in the area. And we'll try to address that if we're able to get the easements, because they'll go by that project, and I haven't talked to that property owner yet, but we'll suggest that maybe he would benefit and would want to tie in.
These drainage problems we have come to recognize in some other locales, and so we are looking at those as part of their permit. So, yeah, they're going to be addressed, even though it's not asked for in the text.
Now, it was required when I did bypass. That was because I was adjacent to the highway department. And when we went through the zoning planning process to do that project, the highway department said, oh, by the way, make sure that drainage is addressed.
And Jason can verify that we've had this conversation about the drainage issues, because you take an acre and a half or 2 acres and replace it with asphalt and roof. Now where does that water go? It's somebody else's problem now. So Jason's quite aware of the issue and is going to be addressing it as we go forward. That we don't push it off on somebody else.
Because it's an expensive problem to solve.
It is.
Properly. But it needs to be addressed and solved properly.
Any other questions? Anybody else?
Let me tell you, given the circumstances and given what I think we're going to try to achieve in that whole guts of the area, given some connectivity and drive of industrial development, I would urge the commissioners, you can't find future commissioners. This is a southern connection into that territory, and I think it would be, if I was on the commission in the future, I would certainly support some connectivity to say, okay, we need to take this over as a county road.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're right, Bill. At some point in time, it makes sense to have a crossing there when Polaris Drive gets there. And the other thing I would say to you, Keith, is I was glad to hear that the water lines and sewer lines are going to be big enough to accept stuff from on west, because that's part of the infill. And that's where that growth is going to come. And so thanks for thinking about that.
Well, and that's quite frankly the reason that I think that the state program is there through the business council, is to think more long-term than individual developers can do. Because if you're just doing it for your own development, frequently it's hard to swallow those extra costs or oversize. And the city has a mechanism to deal with that, but the county doesn't.
Right.
So, and the other thing is, we could build a gravel road there. For some industrial users, that'd be just fine. It wouldn't be good for a connector, so we want to build it so that it will work as a connector.
Well, and that's in an ideal spot when you go on west too, because it's down off the edge of that hill. And so to take it on west would be ideal.
Well, I'm surprised that the building across the street I'm surprised they didn't have a drainage plan. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what building that is.
That was when you were on the commission the first time, Terry.
Well, I think that was when I was off for 2 years.
No, it just got built this last year.
Oh, it was just recent.
Well,
Oh, yeah, this is brand new.
on the commission.
Well, I will tell you.
It didn't run through the commissioners though. This would have been strictly I think it was just a building permit.
Just a building.
It was what?
Just a building permit site plan.
The plat existed long before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the drainage issues have to
So
be
yeah,
addressed
you
in the
need to
plat.
address the drainage issues through the building permit process, because that's where you catch everybody.
Okay, that's a good
Say you're
idea.
just going to address it in the planning process alone, and you won't address everybody.
It's going into discussion this afternoon.
Yeah.
I've got room for you in my memo.
Good.
My staff to put grading issues as part of building permits.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
time.
Thanks
Thanks.
for the update.
Be seeing you more often.
Okay, yeah, there's lots going on.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Continues.